So welcome to a presentation about what's new in the MBS plugin. So I share my screen and you see the website for the plugin, and I hope you all downloaded the plugin already. We have download here for Mac and Windows, but both archives do have the same content. So you can use the plugin on macOS, iOS, Windows, and Linux, on server and client. And we have over 6,000 functions for you. Little things you may need and some very good things. You can read what's in the plugin here. And let's just jump into it. We have a copy of the plugin here. So if you download it, you get the archive, you expand it, of course, and you may copy out examples and plugin files to your plugins folder. And then when you start FileMaker, you should see the plugin in the preference window. So let's see. Yeah, there it is. So let's check what's new in the new version from yesterday. So we got a blog article here. So let's take a look. We have some functions for MongoDB. MongoDB is a NoSQL database, and you may have heard about it since Claris plans to use it more for the future for Claris Studio. And we thought about it would be nice to have a way to connect to MongoDB directly from FileMaker. So we got a couple of functions. Here they are. So we can connect, we can open a collection. We can open a database first. Then we can open a collection, which is kind of a table. And then we can insert a record. And since MongoDB stores JSON objects, we can just fill in our JSON stuff. So let me just open the example. So here we have our little example database. I got a locally installed MongoDB. I just did that with Homebrew. Yeah. So there's Homebrew and there's instruction how you would install it over the terminal. And then you can search for, now you can search MongoDB Homebrew installation, and then
No worries.
yeah, and then you get the instructions here.
Here you go.
Scroll down, 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 and eventually, once you have Homebrew installed, you just add the package source, call an update, and then you install the Mongo community package. And once this is all done, after a couple of minutes, you have a MongoDB server running on your Mac, which then you can, of course, configure, but I didn't configure anything. I just say here, there's a MongoDB server running, connect to it, and show me the databases. Once I pick a database, I can show what collections I have. There's a test collection. The cool thing about MongoDB is that the schema is defined by what's in there. So as soon as you put in a record in a certain collection, you have the collection. The collection is created by inserting something. And what fields are there are defined by here by the JSON we insert. So I can. So by the way, does anyone have questions, or you're also silent?
Not yet.
Okay, let's take a look. You probably all have seen the Script Workspace. We have a couple of scripts here. For example, we can connect to MongoDB. We create a new MongoDB session. That means you can have several sessions at the same time to the same or different servers. So you can query data from one server and push it to another server. You have to set up the connection with something like an URL. And let me just click on this. And as you may know, we have this little thing that we can make the MBS function calls links on Mac. You can just click here and go to the documentation. So here you see the type of URLs you use to specify where to find your database. So local host is of course the easiest thing, but you can also include passwords here right away and different IPs or domains. Sorry. So you can actually have a set of different IPs, so you connect to the first one which answers. And you can, of course, also set username and password with function calls, so it doesn't end up in the URL. So once you connect it, once you set the URL, you call the connect method. And this will establish the connection. And if you don't get an error, you're connected. So you can do something useful like asking for the list of databases available. This will just get you a list of names, and so you can know which databases you have. And there's a release function which is needed to close the session. So if you are in a collection, we close the collection, and if you are in a database, we close the database, and then finally we close the connection, and then we free the memory. You may also want to query the names of the collections in a database. So you first open the database. If that works, you can query the collection names. As you see, we always pass here a little $Mongo variable around. So every connection has a number, and this number is stored in this variable, and we just pass it back from the connect script. And yeah, so we keep track of the connection, and you can have several IDs for several sessions. So we can do an insert. So we open a database, we open a collection, and we insert a record into this currently open collection. And we just pass the record as a JSON. And as said before, your structure is defined by this different JSON objects. And we got a nice little helper function here to actually go over all the records and look on the server for the keys you have. So I can now run this and see that I have different records in this current collection. There are some records which have fields like first name and last name, city, and there are other records which have hello and index. And all share a unique ID field which identifies the record. So we can update a record. To update a record, we specify the new JSON here. Now we specify the search criteria. So look for a record with a field named hello and world as a value. So for more complex things, like here we define what to set. So look for hello with value world, set the other field to 1, 2, 3. You specify here a JSON of all the new changes to made, and this dollar notation is a little bit special for MongoDB to put more in a JSON than is allowed by the normal specification. And we see that on the find. So let's make a little find. Again, we connect, we open a database, we run a find, and this find here takes as argument a JSON with all the fields we look for. So we look for other field, and now we have the special notation here that we don't just pass a value. We say here $greater than, and this is a special key defined by MongoDB to perform this greater than comparison, and of course the value. And let's take a look on the documentation. Yeah, where I also have here a query as an example, which has additional parameters like limit or sorting by fields. And you can, of course, read about this on the MongoDB database documentation, because the plugin is just passing through all these queries. So what else? As you see, we usually call plugin functions with set variable, where we store the result in a variable, and $R is here a dummy variable, which we don't care much about. We want to see it in the debugger, and we may need it for our custom dialog here, but otherwise we just go through and reuse it every time. So we can go here over the records. Let me run this. Well, didn't find anything. So what do we do? We look for other field rather than, oh, we may not have such a record. Okay. So let's insert. So we inserted record. We get a JSON back to inform us about what we inserted. So insert count is 1. Now I can run the update script here, which would set the other field to 1, 2, 3. So we got again a result. Modified is 1. 1 record was changed and 1 matched. And no record was newly created by this update. And now if I run the find again, greater than, okay, let's make it 122. Yeah, now I find a record. So I get the record back, and it has a special key ID, which is then showing me that it's, well, again, a JSON object, and this $OID shows me the object ID with a hex notation. And then all the fields and values in this record. So any questions about MongoDB, or did I lose some beginner?
Oh no, we're here. So what prompted the you writing these ones? Because these are new for this version, right? And
Yeah, well, over the last 2, 3, 4 years, from time to time, someone asked about MongoDB. I thought, well, yeah, we could do that eventually, but don't know when. And then we saw that Clary Studio is using MongoDB, and we still have the hope that there will be a on-premise installation of Clary Studio. And then you have a local MongoDB, and we thought about, well, we may want to connect to this local MongoDB and directly work on it. So beside using ESS+, and people may actually have other MongoDB databases for other applications, and they may want to connect to.
Yeah.
Like we sell quite a few plugins for people who want to connect to other databases. Like they have a FileMaker database tracking their products, and then they have another web shop database in MySQL, for example, to track the sales, and so they want to connect them. And while you can do a lot with ESS, you may want from time to time to use a plugin to connect directly and run SQL commands. And
yeah, I know this was a hot topic recently because we had back in May we had a presentation on MongoDB as well and its potential with FileMaker. So
now if you have any clients who say, we have an app storing data in MongoDB, you can now write a tool in FileMaker to pass data from one side to the other.
Look pretty simple. Thank you.
Yeah, we had this idea. We should make an example soon. Like, for example, we could have a database to manage something like a to-do list and FileMaker. And whenever you commit the record, we could make the here update call to the MongoDB to mirror the FileMaker record in MongoDB. And also when you go on a record, we could make a query to see if the MongoDB has a newer one and then query it. So you may find use for that. And if you need more, let me know. We currently have a couple of functions here. Let me see how many. So 56. I already added a few for people who asked for more. So like the keys function was a little bit work. So we pass a job to the server to actually look for all the key names, so you can know what fields you have in a table. And also there's this estimate document count, which can tell you how many records a table has. And with MongoDB, you have this kind of synchronization between several servers. So the result you get now may not be the actual result. And because there may be some documents in sync. So this can be used with several servers spread over the world, and which eventually get synchronized, but you may not always see the record from the last seconds on your server. So any more questions for MongoDB?
Does it use the record modification count like in FileMaker to know to store how many times a record got modified?
I would bet it does, but I currently don't have a function to query that. So
And another question is, the ID that MongoDB uses,
yeah.
is that a numeric ID or is that
As you see, it was a hex string with, I think, 16 characters. So it's a 128-bit number. It's like a new ID, but not as long.
okay, thank you.
So, but it should be quite unique with 128 bits. Okay, so please try it. Let me know if it works for you. If you need anything, let me know. So where was my blog post? Blog post is gone. So we got MongoDB functions, okay. Encryption, compression, server connections, yeah. So DynaPDF got a few new tricks like PDFX 5 and 6. So if you have any need to create PDFA or PDFX or some other variant of PDF in FileMaker, you can use our DynaPDF functions to either create it from scratch or to convert an existing PDF. We can now also have form fields with date and time formats. So you can tell a field that it should auto format to a certain format. Like if you type something like 1/1/2002, it should make it 1st January, for example. So if you have templates, oh, no idea if someone of you worked with templates in PDF, but you can basically load an existing PDF page, use it as template and place it on another page, like placing 2 pages side by side. And now you can change the bounding box of the page to make it smaller or bigger. And fonts are now defaulting to Unicode, which helps a lot to avoid trouble with people picking the wrong code page. If anyone wants to see something about this, please tell me. Otherwise, let's look in.
Do you have a little demo of how you would, I guess, work with PDFs?
Okay, let's just take one of the example that we have one. There's a 2 pages on one. Maybe it's a recent one. Merge, create, convert to 2 pages. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, let's take an example PDF. Let's take the license here maybe. Or a bigger one, the installation. New record. So as you see, we made a new PDF. And the new PDF has now 2 pages on every page of the original PDF. Now you wonder how does this work? So with DynaPDF, the first thing is always to tell the plugin where to find this library. The libraries itself are always included with the plugin. So here there's a Mac version, a Linux version, and 2 Windows versions. And you can also download an iOS version. So you tell the plugin where to find the library so we can load it. And the examples look for the library in the same folder as other example. So it just works when you play with examples.
So if somebody wanted to, if somebody had like a large PDF and they wanted to split out all the pages into separate documents,
That's another example.
that exists then.
Yeah. So let me just show you. Here we open the existing PDF from the container. So we read all the PDF in memory. Then we ask, how many pages do we have? Then we ask for the page bounds. So we get back the size of the page, first page in this case. We do a little bit math here to calculate the new page width we need and the bounding area. So, and then we make a loop over all the page. We import each of the pages as a template. Like we don't just import it into our working document, but we import it into memory, get back a number. And now we can append a new page. And the new page gets us the width, double the original page width, and high is the same. And then we place the page on the left side. And if we got, this is for an odd number, so odd number on the left and even number on the right. So we have here the distance to the left as a parameter. So we move it to the right side. And so we place the pages left and right until we have no more pages. And then we save the document back to a container. We can also load PDF documents from a file and save to a file if you need that. But the examples are usually with container fields. So if you like to split a PDF, there is a split example. So let's take the menu for DynaPDF. That's something like 600 pages. And click the button. And you see we create quite a lot of pages here. So seems to take longer to have FileMaker make the previews. But we can also split, and we have a merge example, adding page numbers, things people need for PDF.
Can you split by content? Can you actually look for content in the PDF and say, if it says this on this page, split the page here?
Yes, of course. So we have functions to extract the text on a page. And I recently made an example for someone here to, so let me stop this, 300 pages already. So add page links. So we have this input PDF. And we have the output PDF. Yeah, replace. So the input PDF is just a PDF we generated with an index page, and these links are not clickable. So you can't click here. But the new PDF has clickable lines. So you can click here on the line on the left or right, and jump to the topic. That's something I made for client as an example. And in this case, we loop over, we edit the page. We extract text in the area where the page numbers are. So we walk over this page here and make little boxes where we grab the text and then find out. So let's see, I can make red boxes. So you see here, we go from top to bottom on this page to look in this boxes for text. If we find text there, then we add a link to the page for the whole row here. So click here, doesn't work here. Why doesn't work? Probably because it got a demo string. So, but if you have a license key, this works. So you can click on a number, and we do this by using the extract text function. And instead of taking the whole page, we just take here the area. So just jump in. So we define here the area where we look for the page numbers. And as you see, we can also white text on a page and draw a rectangle there and then add a page link. So any other PDF questions?
That's actually amazing.
Very cool.
Do you have clients that are actually just using FileMaker data to generate, like documentation or other kinds of PDF?
The usual thing in FileMaker is that people make reports where they need to use DynaPDF to add page links or web links, convert it to a PDF-A, encrypt the PDF, or do something else. And then we have the people who want to send an email to a client, and instead of sending them 5 PDFs, they want to merge them all to one big PDF and then add an index page.
And getting those links in there, that was. But anyway, all these demos that you're showing us, are those demos available on your site?
What you see is what you get.
Oh,
so,
great.
So let me just make here a new PDF and click here the button to. So this is an example to not just merge, but also add an index page. So, oh, I missed the title here. What did I? This PDF doesn't have a title here in the container. License PDF. So now we have a third entry there. So this example just creates a title page and then adds all the other PDF documents and adds, adds it. While it adds documents, it also adds entry here to this table. And this table is then outputted to the first page. So this can get complex. Like, let me show you. So we create a dummy page. Then we create a table object. Table is something we use for layouting. You can get it border colors, grid colors, background colors. You can fill cells as you need. And then we loop over the documents. So either we read them from the container or from the PDF file. When we have an open document, well, this can fail if you have an encrypted PDF and you don't provide the password. So if we got pages, we import them all at the position we want. So you can also import pages on different positions. I mean, insert them. And then we create a named destination because, well, the links here would also work if you move pages later, because, well, we use named destination, so we don't need to know in advance where the page will be. We add a table entry, we create an action for this table entry to do the jump to the name destination. And then after we have imported all the PDFs, we go back to the first page and output our table. And then we close the page. And then we also run a script to add page numbers. Here you go. So just looping over all the pages of the current working document, calling edit page, and then drawing some text on the page to get new page numbers.
Now I see on your site you have something called PDF Kit, and then you have DynaPDF. What's
Yeah.
the difference between those?
Yeah, well, PDF Kit is what Apple delivers with macOS and iOS. So you can use a couple of functions on Mac and iOS without paying extra. So you only need to get the plugin. But if you need more, you would go with the DynaPDF functions. Then we also have more functions. Let me see. We have over 500 functions there to do a lot of things. And that's an extra purchase. So you buy the plugin and you buy a DynaPDF from us. And then you have a full featured PDF library where you can do about anything with PDF documents.
Nice.
Okay, where was my blog post? There. So, in every version, DynaPDF gets updated, gets new features, new bug fixes, and so we highlight here a few of the things we got in this time frame of the new version here. So with MBS plugin, we have a new version every 2 months. So very agile. So you may know that there's just introduced live text for macOS and iOS with version 19.5 of FileMaker. And we had that function quite for a few years. And for the new version, I just added PDF support here. So because people tried the live text in FileMaker and then complained it doesn't do PDF and so on. Well, do we do PDF? And then I thought, oh, we don't do it, so just let's add it. So you can live text. Do we have a demo for that? No, Vision. There's Vision. So the Vision framework allows us to do things like doing a little bit machine learning. So recognize text would get you the text. So here, happy birthday. Oh, we should tell it it's English. Okay. Never mind. So we may need a picture. Where do I get a picture? I have a picture folder. So let's take here, let's see, what does it say? Yeah, this is not an M1, so the CPU has to do the machine learning. Auto, oh, well, that's not helpful. What do I have? What does it say here? So here you see structure. Oh. Okay, let me get some other picture. You know, machine learning is only as clever as things here. So animal, at least animal. Let's take a look on the details. So animal is the best guess, but line is the third best guess. Okay, it seems to be working. It's just picking the best guess is not necessarily the one you want. So then you can also do barcodes. So let's take a barcode picture. So it detects the same barcode several times, yeah. Can also recognize the text, yeah. So this is using the machine learning frameworks on Mac. And here the one to recognize text learned to do PDF too. So let me just get a PDF. Let's say here the license one. Only 4 pages. Okay, so it got the text. All of it. Or first page only. Huh? We may have a parameter there, yeah, where you can limit how many pages you want to scan. Because if you put in a 600 pages PDF, it may take a while to run the recognition on all the pages.
Is this a Mac only function, or is this also on Windows?
Now this is Mac only. If you want to use machine learning on Windows, we also have functions for machine learning on Windows. But you need to tell us. So you can actually here evaluate a model on Windows too if you want. Yeah. Or use some kind of web service. So let's see. The plugin can detect you the macOS version, and so you can now check if it's the next one coming. And then we added cool things with error logging. I think we have an example for that. Utility maybe. Where did it go? I thought I had one. Okay, then let's make one. So let's say you have a little database. Oh, well, I could use any database which has a script because we may need a script. So let's go back to the Mongo one. So let's see you have a database like this. You have a lot of error checking here. So things may go wrong. Here. You may actually, let's just copy the connect into it, into one of the scripts. So you may have a very long script, and if you do error checking after every line, you may have a lot of error checking here. So let's simplify this by doing a little bit kind of exception handling. We call clear errors on the beginning of the script to tell the plugin that it should clear the internal list of error logs. And on the end of our script, we can query the error log. So this would be this function. And let's say custom dialog. We show the error log. So if we just run this, we don't get an error, of course. So let's make an error. What could be the error? Let's start here on the beginning and say we have some character in the URL which shouldn't belong there. So we can run it, and yeah, it complains and then exits. So let's remove this error handling. Let's run it again and exit again. So I have to actually remove all the exit script lines. So we just do things as we do it. I just found a bug. Okay, I may later look. So there may be one of the MongoDB function doesn't like to be called in an undefined state here. So, but let's do the thing with the loop, which we actually want to do. So we have a one-time running loop, exit loop F1. So this loop runs only once and always exits on the end, but it allows us to exit here when there is an error. Now we can exit the loop after every line if there is an error and run it again. And now we get a collection of all the errors in the plugin. So MongoDB set URI returned an error, and this error is now logged as a JSON by the plugin. So you have the function name, you have the parameters we passed, the file name, the script name, a timestamp, so you know when it happened, and the result of the function, which includes the error message. And actually, the isError function shouldn't be logged. That's something I should change. But the idea is that you can have a script running through all the steps, and you don't need to have as much error logging as you may be used to. And here's the block entry we had. So yeah, we exit after every line with an isError check. So this should simplify coding if you can just exit quickly. Now you may ask, what if I want to report my own errors? That's what we did here with the perform script in the blog article. So we made a little custom function, check error, which checks the FileMaker error status here. So we ask for the last error and detail, and then we use our add to error log function to add this to our error log. So yeah, this allows us to have a little bit more structured error handling if you want to opt into that. Any questions for that? It's really, I like to have in-person meetings because I would see you, whether you are sleeping or enjoying.
Totally agree.
Okay, so we can do structured error handling here a little bit, and you can add your own entries, and so you can have your script end, and on the end of the script, you can check if you have errors, and then you could write it to a database, so you could recognize errors that happen when the customer is actually using it. So anything else for this? So the blog post explains it a little bit, and yeah, enjoy it. So let's go back to the blog. So we got the error logging. So you can build a try catch like in other programming languages. So then we have audit functions. The audit functions allow you to log who edits which records. And well, let me just show you. Let's see, I have those two databases here. So this is the log database where you see we make a lot of records for all the changes and store exactly which table someone edits something. And so let's go here on the event, and I just change here the title and commit it, and I got quite a few entries here. So I just changed the field. The field is named task to welcome party 2, timestamp from today, and the old value is recorded here, the IP and my name and so on. So, and the trouble starts when you have clients with different locals for different people in the company. All the dates would be messed up because FileMaker on one machine would write dates in the German version maybe, and the other one would write US version. And that caused a mess for a client, so we discussed how we could fix that. And the fix we got was we can store dates and times as numbers. So we use get as number on the date value or time value and just store the number of seconds. And this way, this way we can let's just apply this. There's a global setting, so I can just evaluate it once. The flag is set. And now let's change a date here, say different date, and see what happens. So here the date is changed and stored as a number. So we don't get a mess if you have people with different locals. Oops. Clicking in the records may cause trouble. Yeah. So, okay, the value was changed. And the old value used to be a formatted date, and now it's a number. One of the little things you notice after a couple of years of having audit functions that this may be very helpful.
So, hey, you ready for questions on audit?
Yeah, if you have one.
Okay. So I've done some auditing with Ultralog, and so maybe this is a decent question. Field ID, I see you have field name and table name, which I take to mean base table name. Can you also capture the field ID? The theory being that if you have a log of changes for field name and the field name changes, the field ID will be constant. And likewise, the same concern for the base table.
So with the audit functions, there's the audit changed function here, and there's a long list of fields you can define, which we then fill for you. So there is field ID and table ID, and all those fields are optional.
Awesome.
So I can decide what I want to have in my log.
Okay.
We
Well, that's
also
great
have-
because field ID, that would give you kind of rock solid. If it's, you know, if somebody's refactoring the field ID, it just won't change.
Yeah, of course. So we have a couple of options for the audit, like we can ignore any calculation, we can ignore repetition if you want. Summary fields are usually not interesting. We have a special option to ignore underscore field names because some people like to not include them. But you can also pass in a list of field names to ignore in all tables. And whether you want to log a change which doesn't cause any of the fields we monitor to change, and you can decide to use new ID instead of a record ID. And all the fields here are optional, so if you don't want a timestamp, you don't have to have a timestamp. And a couple of fields here can have different setting, like currently those are all text fields. But like the record ID can be a text or a number field, and the timestamp can be a text field or a timestamp field or a number field. So you can decide how we store things.
Cool. And Christian, when for the demo where you changed the field, you're in a detail view when you changed one field. Does this feature have the ability to capture fields that are changed, for example, through like a replace all records, or no?
That's a good question. Let's see. Replace all. Oops. Place field contents, you mean?
Yeah, that's, I guess, yeah, replace field contents where, like, you're changing data that
So
Browser
the
cross
question
reference.
is
There you
whether
go.
we do audit by events by having here an audit state field and a calculation. And this all depends on the calculation being run by FileMaker.
I see. Okay.
So if you import a big thing, you tell the plugin to disable audit so you don't get all the imports as changes recorded. And if you do any operation where FileMaker doesn't trigger the recalculation of a field, you would have to make a script to walk over the records and manually call audit on every record. So you get them locked if you want them. But usually we don't want to have imports in the audit log at all. What you see here is also a portal. We have a portal here which shows you the last changes on this record. So with the change to the welcome party here, we also record the change in the task table, and we have an extra field, contact ID, no, event ID. Here, event ID, which allows us to match the change of the task here to the event, so we can show it in the portal here.
Okay,
So,
cool. And you're writing, the log is being written to a separate file?
yeah, in this case, it's a separate file, but it can be same file, but since the log gets quite big.
A separate file would be best practice because
yeah, it's
it
a
would
separate
address
thing to
some use
back up,
cases.
and you may also want to define how you clear your audit logs. Like, for example, delete them regularly if they are older than a month, maybe.
Maybe.
So, yeah, so you have to decide, because otherwise you may get gigabytes of log data for a small database.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
very cool.
Any other audit question?
Speaking of audits, are there any tools that will audit whether or not, when somebody goes in and maybe modifies a layout or script or even manage database, is there anything that would audit
No,
those?
for that, you always have to make DDR or save as XML and then have a tool to compare it. Like you may go on the video page, version. We have a video here about version tracking using plugin functions. Like we have a function to run the DDR report automatically. We have a couple of XML functions. And then we have the split example file, which is shown in the video, to allow you to separate the XML. So you have this one big XML and then you split it. So you have one XML for every layout and one for every script and one for every style and so on. And I can actually click that and jump ahead maybe.
Those tools, they don't tell you who changed what
Yeah.
when, right?
Yeah, the next thing is, so you can watch that video if you like. And then once we have the XML separated, we can track the changes with something like GitHub or any other version control system you have. And some clients use that to automatically export the database every evening or after making a change. So they get it automatically to the repository.
Hey, Christian, one more question on the topic of auditing. So auditing is kind of like a two-directional process. So you log in changes and then roll back. I'm guessing that if you're doing rollback, you would, just use some scripting skill to roll back. Although I'll ask, have you done any rollback functionality?
We had a client where they not just showed it in a portal, but they had a button here to undo the change.
And that would be just custom scripting, not
That would be
any
no,
plugin
that's not
function.
in the plugin. That's just the script which looks up what was the field name or field ID and record ID, and then you
Yeah.
basically do the reverse by using a script
Yeah.
which
So
goes
that's
to the right
custom.
field and does a set field. And
Sure. And then you'd want roll back and roll forward. We actually fortunately, have never had the occasion to.
well, if the client wants it, you can do it.
Yeah, it can be done. FileMaker, you can do it.
So yeah. And the audit with the plugin here also works on WebDirect, by the way.
Cool.
But not on FileMaker Go unless you use something like perform script on server to log the change on the server. Yeah. Or you use the iOS SDK to get the plugin on the iOS device, and then we can do audit on the iOS device. Okay, so next thing, back to the blog. What else is new? So we had adder. So we have our SQL functions, which you may know. We can connect to a couple of databases. If you have any need to connect, make a SQL query, get some data to FileMaker, or have FileMaker move some data to the other database, you can use our SQL functions. And we just added explicit MariaDB. Usually we handle MariaDB just like MySQL, but over time they diverged a little bit. So we now have explicit switch where you can say it's MariaDB, so we can use some of the newer stuff there. But otherwise, it's all our SQL functions, and it's connecting to a different server by script. So it's a little bit different than ESS, as you don't need to set up an ODBC data source, or you don't need to install special drivers, because we usually use the native libraries. So you can get a MySQL DLL on Windows and tell the plugin where it is, and the plugin can use the DLL to connect to a MySQL server and then run a query.
Do large imports?
Yeah, if you want, I would suggest doing them in chunks, but technically you can have a script which asks the plugin to import. Let's see, we have set command options. So we have options to set, for example, the prefetch rows. So you can tell the plugin to take 100 rows every time. So instead of going to the server and asking for each row individually, asking for 100 rows in one call is quicker. And then we have functions to insert into our FileMaker database. So either you do it yourself as a script, where you loop over the records in our result set and then make a record for every FileMaker. You can also ask the plugin to do that. So you tell the plugin the current result set as in the command object, and then you say which FileMaker database, which table, and what are the file names in FileMaker. So the file names don't need to be the same. Like here we query some fields in a test database, and then we insert them into FileMaker, and the field names don't need to match. In the example, they do match, but they don't need to. And the data types should be compatible, but you can do that. You can use here things in the select statement like cast to change the data type, like give me this field as new. That's a coupon code. So you can do something like select cast. This could be some field like age as Varsha, and this would give you the age field as a text. And then you could also say, this is my import. So I want to have the ID of the import in the record set. So I can just, if it's a number, I can just include it in the SQL. So if you have $ID in FileMaker, you would, I should make it bigger. You would then pass it as part of the SQL, or just put in a number here, or some fixed text. And then pick maybe another field, first name, last name, from test. So you can pre-process in the SQL your data a little bit, add additional fields, add additional convert values, or maybe even do some calculations. Like I could say here, give me first name space, or maybe so yeah, depending on the database, you may have to put field names in quotes or a normal text in single quotes. Then this is a concat for SQLite. Other databases may use plus symbol or other characters to concat text. So this would be a calculation in the SQL statement to concat first name, a space, and last name to get the full name. And we can even name this by saying as full name to give it a name. So I usually type that big. So you can even, use SQLite to, SQL commands to change whatever you select, and then have it go into some fields and FileMaker.
Now, if I were importing like 10,000 rows or something like that, would this?
Yeah, then please read this. If
Okay.
would that you may prefer to do it in blocks. Otherwise, your script, if you tell it to make 100,000 records, it may do 100,000 records certainly, but your FileMaker may be beach balling for 50 minutes or something like that.
Now, if I do that, is it going to perform as well as just like a direct ODBC import from FileMaker?
That's a good question. Since if you use this prefetch value, I would expect we win the race because that would reduce database traffic a lot. The database traffic, over the network traffic is usually the problem. This is a performance. So how long does it take for one byte to reach the other server? And if you have to make for 1,000 rows, you have to make 1,000 packages to the server and 1,000 answer packages back. Then our using 100 rows at a time is of course faster and should need less latency on the network. Yeah, so please try. That's my blog post. So SQL got a little bit improved for MariaDB. We can work with serial ports if you still have them, even if they are basically USB devices or doing serial ports, because I've seen a lot of devices like Scales with an USB port, but if you look on the protocols, it's just serial port over USB. And so on Windows, we can now list some more details. It's not here listed, okay. So you can distinguish between virtual and real ports, and this may help you. So next thing, we have a function here to calculate time-based one-time passwords. And I needed that for client with using a web service, which has a two-factor login. So this can be annoying if someone has to open the iPhone app and look up the one-time password to confirm the use of the login. Very annoying. And so we automated it by having the plugin calculate the one-time password based on the secret to use. That seems to work nice. So basically the plugin becomes the second factor. So next thing is we have variable lookup and shared memory lookup. So the plugin provides variables. And I think we had an older blog post about variables. Didn't we? Variable levels. Yeah, there it is. So you may know that FileMaker knows a couple of levels of variables. So you have variables without a dollar in a let statement or while statement. You have script variables. Then you have file-based variables with $2, global variables. And then you have plugin-based variables, which can have any name, and those are global in the process. So you can have values stored in a variable managed by the plugin, which you can use in several files. And even if you close the file and open it again, as long as FileMaker didn't get quit, you can still use them. And then we have shared memory, which allows you to have values stored in memory outside of FileMaker. So you can put some values there and later get it back. This can be useful on the FileMaker server to move a lot of data with a PSOS call from data API to the script engine, for example. Or you can have two copies of FileMaker moving data between them. I mean, it's a different level of variable. And we just got this lookup function, which can be very handy because if the variable doesn't exist, it will give you the default value, which can be empty. So if you have any needs to store big blocks of data outside of your FileMaker memory and want to have get the value back later, yeah, even if FileMaker is quit in between, doesn't matter. The value stays in memory until you free it or the machine restarts. And here are the variable functions. So you just set a variable by calling a plugin function, passing in the name and the value, and you can clear them all or clear one, or you can list them. Like you can set several and then ask the plugin for the list of variables. And if you need to query one, it's just the get function here to ask for it by name. Not limited to yeah. So, and specialty is that we preserve the data type. All values are stored native data type. There's a change we made a lot of years back. And this is a very early function, 1.2. So this function is something like 16 years old. Yeah, and you can still use it. And since version 4.4, you can put any data type in. So we don't convert dates to text. So you can put in a date and FileMaker knows it's the date. And when you get it back, FileMaker still knows it's a date. Any questions for variables? Where's my blog post? So what else is new? Script Workspace. You may like that. I hope, at least. Let's just open any database. Oh, there's no script here. The other one, yeah. This one has scripts. Okay. So let's see, you want to document your database and you type in a comment and you think about it. Go here and you may have a documentation page. And you can put it in your comment. And when the plugin sees there's an HTTP or FMP URL, it will add here a little arrow and well, emoji for an Earth, because, well, we didn't have a better picture. So you can click it and then it will open the link. So I have to click it or double click it. I never know. So the line, so I click to select the line. I may need to click again then to open the link. So this can be used for documentation, or you have a web service, you like to link to the documentation page for the web service, and then you want to click on the link right away. So this can be, there can be text after it. You can directly jump to something, like you can You can even use an FMP URL, which then opens a certain database, like whatever you like. So here, testnet font. So it may be useful for some people on macOS to add some clickable links to the documentation and the scripts. You can turn it on and off with the preference dialog. So let me just go to the preference dialog. So because for every feature I add, I have to make a checkbox because someone is offended by it and doesn't like it. So you can disable the links for URLs here.
Wait, how did you bring that up?
What?
How did you bring that up? Those preferences?
Oh, well, for convenience, I put here on the help menu. Unless you use a custom menu, then it disappears, of course. Or you otherwise change the menu. So when we have the default menu, you can go here directly to the preference dialog, or you can go preferences FileMaker and then plugins, and then go here and either use a button to configure or make a double click, and you end up in the same dialog right away. And you see we have quite a few functions here that you may like. Like I should always show you the auto completion. I mean, let's define a variable 1, 2, 3. Let's define another one, ABC. And now let's just go here and type $, and you see the plugin shows you what you want. And maybe you also want to enjoy MBS functions like curl, set, option. Which one do I want? Maybe this one. And the plugin auto completes the parameters. Yeah, it shows you the brackets. And if you hover over the function name, it also shows you a tooltip with the parameters. So you get a lot of help from the plugin to write good scripts.
So did I see some intelligence regarding variables? Like it can remember variables throughout your script?
Yeah, it can. Oh, $, here. So when you type $, we will show you all the variables we see in the lines above the current line.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hey Christian, the demo, you instantiated the variables using the set variable, which I think is best practice. Some people do magical instantiation of variables. I'm going to assume that you don't have the ability to pick those up.
No,
you
but you
also
can tell
declare
the
them.
plugin that you have maybe some more variables, like you have a constant, let's say you have $P somewhere, you have a $param, which is maybe set by a custom function. You may also have what's this parameter. Yeah, I think parameter is another thing. Some parameters you passed. And then if you go back here to autocomplete, you see them all because we not just look on the set variable and some other lines, we also look on these comments.
That's very cool. And can you declare multiple variables in a single line?
Yeah, just type them here.
Comma separated.
Variables.
Okay, cool.
Let's see. So okay, you see them all. And for the $, variable, there's a little specialty. If you go to a different script and now just type something here, we remember the globals we saw before.
So you're acknowledging the scope and reacting
Yeah,
appropriately.
but we actually don't know the scope. We don't even know if you have the same file, but we know we have seen them before, and we keep a list of the globals we have seen before.
Cool.
So what else did we get? Yeah. So you may have a lot of scripts, and you may have made a little mess with your scripts, and maybe got a different names. So we got here a little sort command, where the plugin will alphabetically sort your scripts up and down, which gives a nice animation because we simulate the user moving them manually. So FileMaker doesn't know we are sorting, it just sees the user is very quickly moving around the scripts. Which can be helpful sometimes. And we want to also go to the layout window, manage layouts. And here we also got a context menu with a lot of things. Sort selection, let's see, does sort selection work? Yeah, it works, okay, yeah. So I made that, so you can
Available
also
on
sort.
Windows, Christian?
No, this is only for Mac, because on Mac I can extend it. On Windows I can't. But I can tell you that if you're a FileMaker developer and there's a little company in Cupertino selling little MacBooks, and you can just put a MacBook next to your Windows PC and do those operations on the MacBook.
And
That's
Yeah,
the code mostly in Windows.
If corporate lets my MacBook onto their corporate environment, that's
Yeah, well,
yeah.
whatever. I mean, you may show them all the
Sorry.
things. Okay. The next thing we talked about earlier is you may end up having duplicate names of layouts, which can be dangerous if you go to layout by name. So we got the find duplicates command, which looks for duplicates in the list. So let me duplicate this. So let me search again and finds events. It should find more actually. Oh yeah, you know, it finds all of them. So you should collapse all. No, you should expand all, and then you can make the find duplicates, and it finds all the duplicate names. And because they are duplicate, we can't find the ID for you, so we show question marks.
Cool.
On the back to the script workspace, can you find by content?
But we have a search field, which
Oh, yeah.
can help you.
Oh, there it is. Okay, good.
So you can click through your scripts and find all the yellow things.
Wow.
And I think we also got a little feature to scroll for you. Let me just scroll, move this away. So let's say I'm here and I press select. Yeah. So we now even jump down to highlight the line where the text is. Okay, so variable check, yeah. So we have our variable check, so you can define a variable. Let's say we have here some calculation which uses a variable. The plugin can complain that this variable is not known, ABC not found. So now you can go and define ABC, and this works. And just today, someone, I changed it to allow a percent in a variable name. I don't know, no idea who uses that, but one user complained, so at least one is using it. So you can now use percent for the next version. Yeah, and yeah, our loop highlighting got extended. So if you so we show you which lines a loop belongs to, which can be very handy, and added that for more commands. So if you ever get more commands like looping, it will show you which belongs to which. Yeah. And now I don't know what this was. Okay, any more questions about the plugin? Oh, I forgot here, our OCR function can now work with Tesseract 5.1, which is the latest version of the OCR library we use. So any other questions about the plugin? Any feature wishes?
Well, speaking of, I remember, I don't know if I imagine this or not, but I thought I remembered that like when people would ask for, they create ideas in the community, and every once in a while you pop up, oh yeah, we've got that in MBS already. And there are examples of that where people were making requests, in the ideas area in the community, and you just
we have Script Workspace and their line numbers.
yeah.
The line numbers there in FileMaker are there since version 14. With our plugin, we added line numbers for version 11 already.
Hmm.
So
One thing I
people
noticed is that the
ask
line
for
numbers
it.
aren't in the PDFs. That when you print out your if you were to create a PDF of the
Yeah, I
of
see
the
here.
script,
There is no
no line
line numbers there.
No.
Yeah. So people had a need for line numbers. So people requested line numbers. And I did it with a plugin for a couple of versions, and then FileMaker added it.
Mm.
And so someday FileMaker may add a search function. So we don't need the plugin anymore. And FileMaker has much more control about the search.
Mm.
Like we can only search the text we see. So if you have some more text, so I may need a lot of text. So, and let's say X, Y, Z on the end. So the plugin now, so the plugin sees the text. So we see the X, Y, Z because I can copy it. Oops. Hey, where's my script? Which one was it? Where's my script? There it is. Okay, this one. So let's just make this line a little bit longer. Save again. Copy. And you see the text is shortened here. So the plugin can't see all the text because FileMaker thinks, well, there's only so much real estate on this display, so we can cut the text after the width of the line. So if you search for XYZ, plugin can't find it. And if Claris would implement this feature, they know all the text.
Mm.
So they could find more.
I see. So you can only find what you see.
The plugin can only find what we see, and we can copy what we see.
Well, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's as good as we can be. So when I read something on the ideas section, or people pass me and say, I would like to have this feature in FileMaker, I tell it Claris and I tell it Christian. So you can decide who implements it fastest. Some things I can't do, and some things I can do. So
Yeah, in fact, yeah, just for the search feature, I used to I print out the PDFs and then go find the text in the PDFs, because the PDFs are more verbose. They actually include all the parameters that
yeah.
you
So
can really
here,
see.
so the XYZ is in the PDF, but not in the visible
Yeah.
text here.
And so I'd go there and search it, but then the problem there was, like, if I had a large script, then you have to go find the line number, which could be who knows where.
Yeah. With line numbers, you can just say here 60 and return and jump to 60.
Yeah, neat.
And if you make a presentation, you can always zoom in so you get bigger text. Or you just go in the preference like I did and change the font size here. So
is that all that included with the free plugin?
yeah. This benefits are all free.
Oh.
So you can just install it and change the font if you like.
But features that good, we should pay for it anyway, huh?
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. And by the way, for paying, I of course like to get paid, and I got asked for a coupon code. Where's my coupon code?
Oh yeah.
Where's the window with the coupon code? That's the coupon code. There it is. So we had a conference, and I made a coupon code FileMaker conference. which gives you off 20% of a license if you need one.
Can you
So-
paste that into the chat?
Yes. So it's a German spelling because the conference was in Germany. So, the coupon code is still valid for this month. So if you go on our order pages and you just click any item, you get to the shop, and then you can here redeem the coupon code and you get some dollars off.
Oh, for all of July, huh?
Yeah, and this is the price showing with German sales tax.
Just out of curiosity, is that better? Is that better than the academic? 'Cause I'm out of university. Is that better than the academic?
No,
Uh,
if you want academic discount, you can contact us.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, we usually give 30%.
Oh, well, thanks. The university thanks you.
Yeah, well, on the other side, the university, if it's just like any other business, they could just buy one. I mean,
That's right.
the plugin cost is usually peanuts compared to the cost for staff.
That's true. It's just with the bureaucracy. There's like they can
Yeah.
make quick purchases if they're under a certain amount, and then otherwise they have to go through a whole.
Yeah, so
bureaucracy.
if it's a lot of hassle, you may contact us and we make you make you a special link or an invoice, so you can do the hassle once and maybe get a license for the next 5 years. So any other questions?
Hey, Christian, the show custom dialog thing we were talking about earlier, can you quickly demo that? I'd like to show that to a bunch of people because I think it's awesome.
Yeah, let me just go window. We have a lot of window functions. So you see, we have over 100 topics here. We have window functions. And there was one to show the next dialog. Let's see. So here are examples, position. There's a blog post. Doesn't say much. Okay, there's no example listed. So let's just make one. Yeah. Just take, maybe back to the Mongo. Whatever. Any file, new script, test, dialog. So show custom dialog and say here, hello world. So if you run that, it may show on any screen. Let's move the database to the second screen. Run it again. It shows on the right screen here. Okay. So we had customers where the box didn't open on the right screen, so they needed the function. So back to the documentation. On the end of the script, you clear it, usually. Best practice, yeah, well. And on the beginning of the script, you set it. So make a set variable here and put in some coordinates, run it. And you see the dialog briefly showed up because the plugin then noticed, oh, there's a new window. And the plugin moved it to the space we wanted. So can run again, and you see it jumping.
Very cool.
But we have been asking for some more parameters here for a long time. And
just that alone, the ability to position that, because you could, button, and you could use the get layout object attributes and position the custom dialog, to right next to the button that you clicked.
So a lot of people can ignore that and just say so. And so there's a center flag, and if the flag is set, we will center it. So you don't need to pass X and Y coordinates. I think you may just leave the values away. No, you have to pass something. Okay. So you can pass whatever size you want, can make a smaller, wider one. There you go.
Yeah, very nice.
And of course, we also have some more functions with dialog in the name. So if you need a dialog with 10 buttons, you can use this one. Let's see, you can set the position where it should show. You can make it a sheet, so it pops up from the title of the window. You can give it a timeout.
Wow, so it can automatically go away.
Yeah, it goes away after 10 here, example. So we reset the options. We set an icon, some text. So the message is on top, and then there's some informative text below. And there's a mode, which defines how the dialog should look at. I think Windows only does that. A title, of course, timeout, and then you run it, and you get back the name of the button pressed or the text timeout in this case.
And I see you've got icon in there,
Upward,
custom
you get
icon.
upward. Yeah, custom icon, yeah.
Mac, Windows, iOS.
Not iOS, I think. Yeah. Windows.
Oh, there it is, right there. Okay.
Yeah, I put big. I got complaints about people implementing a script and then complaining it doesn't work because, well, this X is not big enough. Or
That looks pretty clear to me.
yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Where's my example dialog? Maybe in the window folder. Dialog. No, not this one. The other one. Yeah, here. Do you like this plugin? Yes. There's here. There's one with picture. So we got here our monkey, and we got a checkbox even. And then we can press a button and get a result. And the nice thing is you can do this dialog with a let statement from any calculation. So you don't need to have a script running for showing a dialog. But that's kind of an advanced thing.
Yeah, I know there's people who are going to say, I'll use a card window and so forth and so on. I think just having all the functionality you just demonstrated attached to a show custom dialog would be really good for developer productivity.
Yeah, so let's see. So
I
here
know.
we have
I taught users that. Yeah, we only got 3 buttons.
yeah, so here you see a lot of examples using let statements, but also you can do a script, and we often have the thing that we want to run a use a let statement to group a few MBS calls so we can do something automatically. Let's see, we have the schedule functions, and the schedule functions allow you to schedule things. And for example, here, evaluate after delay. Let's see. Yeah, and so we can, for example, say we want to run an MBS command to trigger a menu bar here, menu command after a time. And can even make more complex things with hotkey. That was I think that example was in the hotkey. So you have a hotkey, which then doesn't trigger a script, but evaluates something. And yeah, here's something. We define a hotkey, which then writes a text file with the content of the data viewer to a file path calculated here from the desktop folder and a timestamp based file name. Build a file path, and then you see it's all a big call. I think we had similar with the let statement, but you can do a lot of if you have some expression you want to evaluate.
Hey, Christian, I see you picking up the data viewer. Do you have access to the call stack?
No, well, not directly. In general, the answer is no, but in special cases, it's yes, because if the debugger window is visible, we can read that. So while you are debugging, we can log the call stack because it's visible on screen.
Okay, I see. And would the same rules apply in terms of you can capture the visible portion of the
Yep.
call stack? Although, okay, all right, yeah, some things you
Well,
just
it's a
can't do,
list.
yeah.
I mean, if you just see the first 3 entries, but there are 10, we can certainly get 10 entries because we can internally get all the rows.
Okay.
Yes, so yeah, there's a long-standing feature request for Claris to make available the call stack and things like the current line number.
Yep.
And that's things only Claris can do.
Yeah,
So-
and another one of those, because I know I asked you previously, you still can't, or you don't have access to the sort stack either.
No.
Okay, so these are the things that would have to come from the mothership.
Yeah, I think I remember we once made a project where we had basically a script generating the lines for a script to sort things. Like you would have to define all the different combinations for sorting, make it in XML and then paste that into a script.
Can you get the dock position and size? Is that another one that's hard to get?
Yeah, on the right, the macOS dock, we have screen functions, and here screen functions, and they can tell you the dock height and width, not the position. So basically, we can query the available space on the screen, and so calculate you the.
So if you get the height and the width, that would tell you whether the dock is at the bottom or on the right, it would seem.
Oh, I could add more functions to. Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah. Okay.
We should tell you where the dock is.
When we pop a window, we have to kind of like a blind man, kind of like feel where the dock is. But that's very cool that you did that.
We have some feature to resize. Let's see. So, well, this tells me it doesn't tell me how high it is because it just tells me it's 36. We could add functions to get the available space, which would then give you the screen size without the dock and the menu bar. And then you could do some math because you would also get the X and Y and the width. So you could exactly say
That would get
the
it
dock
done.
must be on the right side. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that would do a little bit of math. So you could get the available space, I heard you say. Would that give you also the available, would that give you the zero origin point of the available space such that you could determine if the dock was on the left or the right?
yeah, that was my idea. We don't have a function for that yet, but you could email me, and if I find time on the weekend or so, I could maybe add another function.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I'll hold off because we did a little bit of a workaround where we can discern where the dock is, although it's a lot of lines of code that could be fewer lines of code.
We also have function to query the bounds of the window. So if you have a FileMaker window, we can query left and high, and you would just open your window, maximize it.
Oh, and that would be a way to
query the size and
use
then
the existing, right?
put it back, like put the size back, and
That was similar to our workaround, is to discern. Yeah, but yeah, I see what you're doing. Clever as usual.
yeah, and I just wonder if you can maximize it without actually having the window visible.
Right.
Good question. Okay, so my list is empty, and I think we have already over 2 hours. Any other questions?
Well, I have a question for Tony. Like some of the functions you're asking about, those are things, that's functionality that you're providing for your users then?
The if I understand your question, what the things that Christian was just demonstrating in terms of windowing function, the FileMaker Awesome platform that it is, does have a couple things that are missing, or missing in the sense that they'd be useful to have. And we have picker windows, very We really like picker windows where you pop a list. And what we try to do from a user interface point of view is have a button that when you click it, it reads the get layout object attributes of the button, and then it positions the picker window. You know, our first try would be to put it to the right. And what we wrote the code such that it would successfully pick to the right on the if it fits. And it might not fit depending on the user's dock. So the built-in functions that FileMaker has will give you a lot of things: content, window, screen size, and probably some others that I forgot about.
So to do that for your users, which license did you buy?
Well, these are things that we do. We do have the paid license to Monkeybread and have for a number of years. The functionality that we're deploying in terms of the picker that I just described is all native FileMaker. So you know, the features that I was asking Christian about are not things that we're currently using. Partly, you know what I mean. We're doing the picker scripts that we have. It's like a ridiculous number of lines just to figure out where the dock is. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
So the plugin has currently 6,800 functions, and you can imagine that those functions are there because well, that's not a complete list. Okay. So we have we have some old functions which are not in this list. So you can look here for macOS functions, and even for Windows we have 4,000 functions. And on Linux, on the server, you can use 3,000.
Right.
So you can enjoy all the functions, and this function exists because someone asked for them.
Right. So buy a license for just like a couple of developers is different than buying a license for the whole server, right?
Well, you may need both. Depends on what you use. I mean, you buy the license where you need it. So here's this nice diagram. So if you just use FileMaker Pro, you buy usually a seats license or the number of FileMaker Pros you have. If you like to use scheduled script or custom web publishing or WebDirect or data API, you buy a server license. And then you can have your data API or WebDirect or scheduled script use the plugin functions. Or when you have FileMaker Go, you can use perform script on server to have the server, for example, make a barcode and put it in a field. So FileMaker Go sees the barcode.
Okay. I see that.
So, and you can all go on the website, and there's a trial license button here where you can fill out a form and we can send you a trial key. Any other questions?
I have no more questions. I think it's awesome work.
Okay. So thank you all for attending, and if you have questions, there's certainly a contact form here somewhere here.
That's great. Thank you.
Christian, I do have one question.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you know of any conflicts with your script search capability? Maybe conflicts with any other plugins that might do something similar? Because I tried to do some searching with your search feature in scripts, and it didn't seem to work, and I didn't know if there was something that might be a conflict. Like if I had the 2Empower plugin installed at the same time, which has similar features, would that maybe conflict with your searching capability?
It should not, but I know people use both together. So
Okay.
I use both, and they seem to get along.
Okay.
both just read the screen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because he's only able to just search what's displaying on the screen is what he demoed earlier. So if something's
Yeah.
hiding.
Well,
then
when you
it
say
won't-
what's displayed on screen, even if it's scrolled below, that's still okay. Is that right? It'll still function.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So,
Well, maybe
uh,
that was the problem, is that there was something that was too big that that FileMaker wasn't seeing it because it was too large or something.
oh yeah, and we have limits. So
Hmm?
for performance, let me see, set limit. This one. So the plugin has usually a limit set for our variable check, but applies also for other things. So with variable check, we check 500 lines to find the variable, and then we give up.
Okay.
And with, I think, 2000, we don't do anything anymore because it would be too slow to scan 2000 lines to, I think even we disable the color if you have so many lines. So at some point it stops.
Right. Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Some people like to increase the limit. Sure, yeah. But when the plugin reads the script lines, FileMaker actually has to create all these little lines with the controls. So this takes up a lot of memory and can be slow if we request all those lines to just verify a variable name. But in a big script, it may be easier to just have, if you have a variable on the top, you can maybe just every few hundred lines put in a command line for the plugin to remember the variable. Okay, any other questions?
Last time I put in a code, I put it in the, I guess I was thinking it would come in after I clicked on the PayPal review order or something like that. Where do we put in the coupon codes for?
Oh, if you got on my page and you didn't go through the web shop, but use PayPal Direct, there is no coupon field.
Okay.
But if you ask kindly, I can just refund it later.
Yeah. Okay. But
Yeah.
so we just click on buy now and.
Yeah, you can just buy it and write me an email that you missed to put in the coupon code. Or as an alternative, I can just add you 3 extra months to the license.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, well, just write an email and say, I just made the order and saw you on the DIGFM presentation. And
But where would you normally? So you would do that through FastSpring or PayPal or? Web shop?
yeah, we have a web shop, usually with MyCommerce, and we also have one with FastSpring.
Okay.
And we also have PayPal. So
I see.
people like to pay in different ways. So if you don't find a coupon code field, just email me after your purchase and tell me if you prefer a refund of the 20% or if you prefer extra months.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Other question?
Good.